All right, welcome back to another week with Talkin Hawks. Today we are talking about Northwestern. We got a little recap on that. We're also going through kind of a day in my life / Q&A about my game days in our middle section. And then to cap it off, we're going to be previewing our game versus Rutgers. This is Talkin Hawks presented by Hills Bank.
No matter where you are in life, Hills Bank is here to help you succeed. Whether you're buying your first house, saving for your child's future, or preparing for retirement, you can count on the people at Hills Bank for the support you need to reach your goals. It's easy to connect with a banker in person, over the phone, or on hillsbank.com because we believe banking is better through human connection. Hills Bank is an equal housing lender and FDIC member.
Hello, Matt.
Hey.
How are you?
God is good. Another win.
Another win. They can't keep getting away with this. And yet here we are, 7-2.
Good defense, enough special teams. Enough offense.
Touchdown.
Look
at that.
And a field goal.
Well, admittedly, I wasn't able to watch much of the game yesterday. I left you at home with both kids. How'd that go?
We're here today.
You made it through. There was no nap Dax. It's a special kind of Dax.
It is. But he tries really hard to be his best when he's tired. He just lapses.
You know, it
into
happens.
Naughtiness.
Into violence. That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Well, I was emceeing the No Foot Too Small Gala. It was their 10th anniversary. It was
Long
so
time.
Cool. Yeah, no kidding. They've done so many cool things in those 10 years. But I'll explain a little bit about No Foot Too Small for those of you that don't know much about it. So Robin Boudreau and her husband Ryan are the founders of it. And I got to know Robin super well, unexpectedly, a couple of years ago. I was emceeing an event and had an emergency, a lot of pain, had to be rushed to the emergency room. And she actually, we crossed paths in the lobby during this event. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm actually not okay." Never met her in my life, by the way. I have no idea who she is. And she's like, "Well, get in my car. I'm going to take you to the emergency room." I'm like, "Okay." No better person to be taking you to the hospital. Gets me in there, gets me in right away. Anyway, and she was just kind of like my advocate, and we got to know each other and had a ton in common. And then from then on, just kept in contact, went to lunches, all the things. It was just one of those God was there to be this is the person that you're supposed to be meeting right now, through the pain that you're also experiencing.
I did eventually show up for those that are listening. I didn't just leave her out to dry.
Yes, Matt. Eventually, Robin called Matt, and then he was able to be there. But anyway, so that's how I got to know Robin, and then got to know about her organization and what they do. So it's called No Foot Too Small, and basically their goal is to provide counseling services for families, for mothers, fathers, like I said, families that have experienced infant loss or pregnancy loss. And so they provide counseling services, and then also they build bereavement suites. And so if you're having a preterm labor and the baby unfortunately doesn't make it, they put you up in this suite that feels more like a home, not so much like this cold, sterile hospital room. It's more of a welcoming, to make it as good of an experience, right?
Right.
To not see, like I said, you're sitting in this cold, sterile hospital room experiencing this horrible tragedy. So that's what they do just across the nation, bringing families in and helping. We think we had people from, let's see, last night, somebody from Canada. We had people from Wisconsin, Minnesota. So a lot of Midwestern families, but also it spans across the nation and who they're able to reach. And so they just do a lot of really great work with families and mothers. And it was just a really cool thing to be a part of. So got to MC that yesterday. I got there at 3:00. So I did miss a good portion of the game, but tried to keep up on Twitter as much as I could. So shall we get into the game, Matthew?
Wow, ow, wow.
No, please don't ever do that again. You just you definitely spit all over John's mic.
No.
And it came from your throat. So
No.
It's
No.
I want to talk about the field. This is a big drama that was ensuing with Wrigley Field. There was some turf issues.
Well, anytime you roll out turf, and the only time I can really speak to it is when we played at the Rose Bowl, and that's not a fond memory for Hawkeye fans, myself included. But guys are just slipping all over the place and whatnot because it's freshly laid. I think they lay it 2 or 3 days prior and then just hope it takes enough. They were that spot. It was a 4th down stop by us, which we'll get into. But like they did a bunch of QB sneaks, and when you got that many feet just pushing on this brand new sod, I mean, it was just like a sinkhole was becoming out there. It kind of reminded me of the Big Ten Championship when that one dude went down to the, I'm blanking on the year, would have been like 2013, 2012, maybe. It was like at the end zone where a piece of like the turf came up and they needed more turf beads, and this guy like flew out there and he's like, it's like a surgeon with these, rubber pellets, getting them all in. Kind of reminded me of that, but they had like a whole crew that was out there and they were just dumping dirt and dumping dirt and dumping dirt and trying to move it around, and it was bait.
Yeah.
It was pretty bait.
It was not good.
But they eventually got away from that spot. Yeah. But I mean, one spot throughout the whole thing, at least that's helpful.
Did you see what Jay said, Higgins?
I did not.
He said that in his post game, he was like, yeah, I just told the ref, like, hey, you need to fix that, so that he could take a breather. He kept being like, no, it's still not good.
That's why we took all the TV timeouts.
It was Jay.
Smart.
He just needed a second to catch his breath. Kev was not a huge fan of playing at Wrigley. Did you know this? You didn't see this either? Matt,
enlighten me.
You really need
to. I watch the game. I don't care about the outside noise, even though that's what we are currently. Talk to me more about the...
No, he said that he wasn't a big fan of like being on the same sideline.
Which makes sense.
I get that. And then the other thing was he was really concerned about how close the end zone was on the south side to like the...
They were really close to the wall.
Yes, he was very concerned about that. And he's like, it just didn't really feel that safe. He's like, if they're going to continue to play football games at a baseball stadium, they should probably try to figure out how to better line that up so that you're not almost running into the wall.
Either orient it differently or, be able to take that out so it can kind of become like a pseudo tunnel, so to speak.
A pseudo tunnel. Okay. So, the field. That was interesting. I think a lot of people enjoyed having it at Wrigley, though, in terms of fans.
It was basically a home game for Iowa, I'm pretty sure.
This is what I'm hearing. Yeah. They said that, I can't remember who it was. One of the players after the game said that it felt like a home field situation. Then they also said that they were booing Northwestern pretty heavily when they came out. So.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
But it looked like it was packed. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I will say, the food at Wrigley, I saw some pictures of like the hot dogs and stuff that people
Was
had.
it Portillo's?
I don't know, but it looked really, really good. We need to get some like gourmet hot dogs at Kinnick. Sign me up. All right, let's talk game now. What do you want to talk first?
Let's start with our offense, because I feel like that's usually the talking point.
Okay.
Not our best offensive performance. I think it was 169 yards. I think there's been a lot of talk on Deacon Hill, between his ability to throw the ball versus taking care of the football and stuff like that, which I think one thing that he's going to continue to grow. Obviously, he's only a sophomore. Like, this is his second year, first year ever really being thrown to the fire, so to speak. So obviously there's a lot of room to grow when you're that young. One thing that I tend to notice a lot is he puts one hand on the ball often when he's in the pocket. And I would rather have two hands on the ball at all times until you're about to throw it. Because then it kind of, defensive ends are trained like when they come around to swat down and they either want to hook your elbow or something. Like, they don't have to hit the ball. It's just about disrupting this arm enough so the ball comes loose. When you got two hands on the ball, it's a lot more secure. Thankfully, we didn't have any major turnovers there. But there was one where he evaded the sack and then like threw it as he was going down. Like, that's a play that you don't make. Now I will say that there's an NFL guy currently that a lot of Hawkeye fans will remember, Brock Purdy, doing the same thing where he's like going down, he flips it up, he throws a pick six to like TCU when he was in college. Now he's playing well in the league.
True.
So, I mean, kind of hit or miss there, but thankfully that didn't go down. I will talk about the interception a little bit. So we ran four verts, essentially, basically a deep ball with three tight ends on the field. I'm a big believer in letting guys do what they do best. Tight ends are meant to be a hybrid, right? They're meant to go catch passes. They're meant to block. They're meant to run, like things like that. We saw, George would, in the league, George would do like jet sweeps. We ran them with Noah Fant, stuff like that, with really special athletes. But like, I like receivers out there running routes. I like running backs to run the ball, things like that. And I think it's a little tough when you ask guys that are, 245 pounds, they're not really built to run by guys. I think it just puts them in a weird situation. So Deacon liked his outside option there with Nico, but he threw it inside. You can't do that on a four verts ball. It's got to be outside. And the reason it's got to be outside is either nobody makes the play or your guy catches it. And those are the only two options. Now, what's supposed to happen is Nico's supposed to give what's called quarterback grass, which is essentially like 5 yards from the sideline. So if Nico's pinned on the outside of the corner and he gives Deacon 5 yards to work with, he can throw it over his shoulder and he can fade to the ball. DB is still on his inside shoulder. He can't make a play because he gave Deacon this room on the outside. Now,
quarterback grass.
Yeah, QB grass. Supposed to give him at least like 5 yards there so you can work and he can work.
Not with divots in it, though.
Preferably no. Unfortunately, ball gets thrown inside. I thought we could have done a better job at receiver for not letting him catch it. Like if I know I'm not going to make the ball, I become a defensive back. I got to knock it down, make sure that we retain possession, whatever it is. And I think we could have done a little bit better there just to try and remain in charge of it. But I like the fact that we were trying to stretch the field. One thing that I saw a couple times, I think they were actually both on the first drive. Deontay Vines on a quick slant, and then later I think it was Caleb Brown trying to run an in cut. We're giving up leverage running routes.
Okay, explain.
And so essentially, if I want to go inside, let's say I'm running an inside route, I don't want to run outside of my corner unless I know I can get his hips flipped. And what I mean by that is most of the time, if they're playing press.
This is a moment where I wish you could stand up to show. We're not going to do that. Continue.
No. So most of the time, the corner's hips are facing us. Like we're face to face to each other, the DB and the receiver. Okay. If I run outside and I try to get him to flip his hips, what that means is that way we're both facing the same way because we're running. And then I can cut underneath him because he can't get his body to turn and shift and move with me when I go inside. But the problem is when they don't shift their hips and their hips stay square and they run that, we just run into them. Now, thankfully, we got bailed out on 2 pass interference calls, but like we're giving up leverage and then trying to win, as opposed to like I might take a little more time at the line, do some foot fire, as we called it, where like you just pick your feet up really fast and like you're hoping that the DB like has some anticipation and gives some ground, and then you can cut it off in front of them. I mean, there's different releases. You can do an arm over, pin rip, like all that stuff. But the point is, if you're giving up leverage, you have to get their hips turned. And if you don't, then they're just going to wall you off. Again, we got bailed out from pass interference calls, but I think that's a minor thing that we can do on the outside to try and help ourselves win. Like if I want to go inside, I should try to win inside. There are times where you want to win outside and then you can throw by and come underneath, but I just feel like we're giving up so much leverage that it kind of impedes our ability to run the route.
What's a pin rip?
It's where I'm going to pin. So I'm going to use both arms here. I'm going to pin the DB. I'm going to like basically put my left hand, if I want to go to my left hand on his shoulder pad, and then he's going to try and get hands on me with the other one, and I'm going to rip with my right arm, which essentially is like a really hard running motion from basically my hip all the way up, and I want to finish my elbow through my ear hole in my helmet, so that way he can't get his hands on me, and then I can sit my foot in the ground and go inside. Or an arm over, where if he tries to get one hand, I use my left hand to swipe, and then I use my right hand to come down, and I basically want to shatter his wrist so he never tries to do that again.
So I know about this. I didn't know the actual names of them because you would do it to me all the time.
Practice.
I know, it's literally so annoying because I'd go to like, mess with you or whatever. And
pop,
like,
pop.
Yeah, that. I was literally just about to do pop, pop with that.
You want to get good at your craft? Do it all the time.
Not to me.
Practice. No days off. Pop, pop. So like little things like that can help with that, but I'd rather just win on leverage to begin with. So that would help Deacon. And is my point in saying all of that. That kind of stuff would help Deacon with the ball placement and things like that.
So then let's talk Deacon versus, so does anyone know how to say his last name?
Labas.
I say Labas.
Labas.
But then I keep hearing people
Labas.
say Labas, and I just don't think that's right. I don't know.
Labas.
Labas. No, not that one.
Labas.
Oh, man. Okay. Anyway, Joseph. So a lot of Twitter commentators are talking about Deacon versus Joe and why not try him? And if there's anything that we've learned about Iowa football and Kirk Ferentz in the past, he is not one to switch to another quarterback very quickly, very promptly, unless he absolutely has to. And the situation of like an injury or something like that. I'm correct in that, yes? Because I feel like that has been kind of a point of contention for a few years where we're like, well, why not try this guy? Why not try that guy?
So I'm going to answer that with one quick thing. Grass is always greener.
Grass is always greener. And at the other point too, it's like, we're not at practice. So it's hard to know what the other guy looks like. But I don't know. Can you speak to that at all? Other than grass is always greener.
Grass is always greener. Like if the guy you have there is like, I go back to Deacon Hill's first game against Michigan State, where he was putting the ball exactly where it needed to be. He was making all the right calls, and our guys weren't catching it. That's not Deacon's fault. Every week, I think there's been a drop or two on like some bigger plays, and that's not his fault. Now, does that mean that Lavas shouldn't be, or Joey shouldn't be pushing him for playing time? He absolutely should be. But if they're seeing in practice what doesn't translate, I mean, we kind of went through this a little bit with Peters and Padilla, right? Yes. It was like back and forth, and then Padilla comes in and he hasn't taken snaps with the first center, and he ends up muffing the first snap against Ohio State. You know, like there are flashes and we kind of see what people are capable of, but what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to put you in the game? And as of right now, the coaching staff doesn't think that Joey is doing enough to get in the game on Saturday. So, I mean, I don't envision them to change. They can obviously do whatever they want, but I just don't. Deacon, I think, is showing enough to continue to take that. Now, the one thing that you can't do with the way that Iowa plays is you can't turn the ball over. Whether or not, like, I mean, he's going to get coached up. You got to throw that deep ball outside. But with the way that Iowa wants to win, you just can't turn the ball over. Now, my opinion on that particular one, it's almost like a bad punt. It's like a touchback, bad punt, whatever. You know, like I'm more apt to take that deep one. But the one where he's like spinning down and he throws the ball and it's like that ball is a lot harder to justify, in my opinion.
Yeah, understood. So on the topic of offense, Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
Get some offensive snaps.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wasn't able to watch it, but tell me about it.
Yeah, so they gave him a jet sweep, and then they faked the jet sweep the very next play. I think he got like 4 or 5 yards, and then we faked it to him, and then LeSean Williams got, I think, 6 yards and a first down. So 2 plays, 1 first down for Cooper DeJean.
I mean, good work, buddy.
All that coming off of a straight defensive series and a punt return, and then they put him right back out there. Like, that's the thing that I think people don't completely understand. It's like, oh, well, Travis Hunter does this stuff. Well, does Travis Hunter return punts? No. Does Travis Hunter return... is he on the punt unit? I actually don't know if he's on the punt unit, but I know that Cooper is. And I know that, so if you think about it, Cooper takes, let's say he takes a 5 or 6 play defensive series, and then he takes punt return and he goes, let's say he gets an 8-yard return. Okay. So he's run however many plays in a row. Now you're going to put him on offense, or normally if he doesn't play offense, he goes out. Let's say we go 3 and out. He's had 3 plays to catch his breath. Now he's going to come back out, run a 55-yard sprint on punt, and then go back into the defensive series, go back into punt return. So that's why I don't think it's realistic for him to be a consistent thing on offense. But I do like the fact that they're starting to give him a little bit of reps. You know, I think now the jet sweep, you're running in 45 yards across the field, you know, I mean, and then you're running 45 yards back, and then he goes off to the sideline. Like, there's a lot more to it in terms of conditioning. I think he'll continue to get there. I don't think there's any reason why, now that they've shown it, why he couldn't be a bigger part. But I think we just need to be aware that, like, his main position is corner. He's a really good one. So I'd rather not make him gassed just to give a gimmick. Like, I'd like him to, you know, you give him a couple plays, you give him a package, and that way he gets his snaps, but he also gets the much needed rest to go out and guard the best receiver on the other side of the field.
And one point that I think it might have been Jay Higgins again, post game, he was like, yeah, I think it just shows, it's like a testament to Cooper on how much he loves the Hawks and how much he loves football, because he could very easily go to the coaching staff and say, no, I'm not doing all of that because of, 1, conditioning, and 2, I think you could probably make the argument that he's going to go to the NFL next year. And so he wants to be protected. He wants to keep his body in check, right? And he's not doing that. But what I'm saying is he's not going to the coaching staff and asking to be protected or asking to maybe take less snaps. He's actually asking, maybe not asking, but willing to take more.
Well, he did. They did an interview, and they asked him a couple of weeks ago, like, are you going to be on offense? He goes, I'd like to be out there for a little bit.
There you go. And so I just thought that was kind of a cool thing and a cool testament from a teammate too, to be like, yeah, no, he's just a totally unselfish guy.
For sure.
That's just here for the team and to see what he can do to help us get the win. So kind of cool.
I think he's special with the ball in his hand. We know that.
Yeah, everyone was very excited to see that too. I heard it was very loud when he went out on offense. So that's pretty cool. All right, really quickly, let's talk defense and then just touch on special teams because that's what won us the game. So let's talk defense really quick. 5 sacks. Jay Higgins had 12 tackles. I'm assuming he's still leading the Big Ten.
He got to be up there. Dude's ridiculous. Always around the football.
I think he had last week it was around, and maybe this wasn't last week, but recently he had 115 and the next closest was 80 something. And so now tack another 12 onto that.
Incredible.
For this game. And then the goal line stand. You really want to talk about that. Let's hear it.
Yeah, and overall defensively, 5 sacks, like you said, getting after the quarterback. And they've got a running quarterback. He led them in rushing the week before against Maryland. He didn't look all too comfortable back there, and we didn't have to bring a ton of pressure. I think Higgins actually had a sack. There was a time, I think Nick Jackson also got one. That was early on in the game. But our defensive line was getting after him, which is awesome to see. Goal line stand. I'm actually going to hold off on that right now.
Okay.
It was incredible that our defense did what they did, especially when you think about that's the sideline or that's the end zone that's the furthest away from our sideline. So to get the call and do what they have, and they're looking 80 or probably more 60 some yards to get the call to communicate it and then do it 4 times in a row, that's unbelievable.
Okay. I like that little, you threw that in there. I didn't really even think about that. Tidbit. Special teams, blocked punt.
Yeah, I don't know if you can argue it was a block punt. I don't know if we actually got a hand on it. I think it hit the back of them, but it goes to show, like I talked about it before, rush the hold up. They're going to go rush the shield, and the shield gets hit back into them, and that leads to our touchdown. Playing field position, and you just wait. You play defensive ping pong. They make a mistake, capitalize on it, and that's essentially what won the game. That and obviously the 53-yard field goal, which probably would have been good from 60. The one he hit off the upright, which was almost identical to the kick that won it. That also would have been good from 60. I think Drew Stevens said that he's, bulking up and he got big, and that's great because his leg is massive.
He looks so young.
He really does. He looks like he just took his middle school photo.
Okay, relax, Drew.
Hey, but he kicking game winners.
Don't let him do
don't
like
matter.
that.
Don't matter.
Maybe we can get him on the pod.
Should.
We should. Okay.
He did you see his celebration by chance?
No.
He put them to bed. He looked at their portion of the sideline and did this.
Their portion of the sideline. That's very funny. Yeah. And Cooper had a pretty big punt return as well.
Yeah, the hidden yards is, I think, what needs to be aware of. No invalid fair catch. Just making sure he points, the ball bounces, and if he moves out of the way and he lets him down, it probably gets inside the 5 or the 10 based on how it was rolling. But he points at it. There's a guy right in his face, and he's like, I'll take that, and then makes a guy miss. And I think he gets 12 yards. Not a massive return, but 12 yards. He's the leading punt returner in the Big Ten. 12 yards is a big return, but you think about, let's say we would have lost another 15. So really that's 27-yard difference between him letting that ball go and then just being a dude, grabbing it, making one guy miss. That kind of stuff can't be underrated. And at first, he was going to be my unsung hero because of that.
Oh.
I got somebody else.
You have somebody else. Let's get to our unsung hero, brought to you by JB Roofing. I think this has something to do with that goal line stand because you said you were going to come back to it. So who is your unsung hero this week?
We got Nick Jackson.
Okay.
Nick Jackson. And the reason that I wanted him to be the unsung hero, it could have been the entire defense. For 4 stops inside the 1, that's unprecedented. But Nick Jackson gets it because on 3rd down, they run a power or something like that. And Nick Jackson and Jay Higgins they basically have to wait and read so that way they can come up and make a play. And you got to make it like that when you're that close. Nick Jackson takes on 2 blockers. He takes on the fullback and the lineman or the tight end that folded in. I think it was a tight end. He takes on both those blockers. Jay Higgins is free, and he lays the wood on the running back, who, by the way, is 6'2", 220. That's a big running back. So Nick Jackson takes both blockers so Jay Higgins can be free and do what he does best, which is tackle. And we stop him on 3rd down, and then the whole defense rallies to do it on 4th down. So the fact that Nick Jackson, unselfish football, I want to make the play that stops it. Nah, he's like, I'm going to take these 2 blockers so my boy Jay Higgins can do it, finish it. Finish this play anyway and give us another opportunity on 4th down. And that's why Nick Jackson, unsung hero, brought to you by JB Roofing.
Very good. I like that one. We will be right back. Need a new roof, gutter, or siding in Eastern Iowa? Call JB Roofing, the local and reliable roofer with over 20 years of experience. They do one roof at a time, unlike others who juggle multiple projects and cut corners. They also serve a 45-mile radius around Kelowna and help you with any insurance claims. Don't wait. Call 319-656-ROOF or visit their website, jbroofingkelowna.com, for a free estimate. JB Roofing, the small town roofer you can trust. Hey, Matt, did you know that Iowa City Tire does more than just tires?
Yeah. I mean, they've been servicing the corridor for like 40 years.
Okay, but did you know that until somebody had to tell you?
No, I didn't.
Well, hey, check out how they're doing things in a very different way at Iowa City Tire and Service, where service actually comes first. Visit ictire.com. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to go through a little Q&A. I asked for some questions on my personal Instagram of like, what do you want to know about my Hawkeye game days as the host of Hawkeye Sports? It's kind of a weird job. And a lot of times I just get asked like, so what do you do? And it's honestly kind of hard to explain. So I just asked for some general questions, got a lot of really good ones. We're going to go through that. And Matthew, not to be confused with my Matt, Matthew, one of our producers, is going to be asking the questions. So Matthew, what is the first one?
Cool. So we actually have two pretty similar questions to start it off with. So Skylar asks, how did you get to where you are? I want to have the same job as you someday. And then Marissa also asked, how did you become the host?
Very good. Okay, so this is a question I get a lot too, and it's a very funny story. Well, to me, it's kind of funny. So this job didn't exist before I had it, which is super unique and very cool to be able to say, honestly. But back in, let's see, it would have been 2016, Matt proposed to me after one of the games. And so following that, obviously there was a little bit of media coverage on it, just locally, I guess a little bit national, but not really, just mostly local. And they wanted me to come on the pregame Hawkeye radio network. Yeah, right outside of the stadium, wanted me to come on the pregame show and just talk about the engagement, that kind of thing, just a little puff piece. And I was like, sure, sounds good. Actually, initially I said, I'm not doing that because I want to focus on the game because Matt was still playing. And my mom was like, just go do it. And I was like, okay, I'll go do it. So before the next game, after the Iowa State game, went up there and I had a little bit, like I studied journalism and mass communication in college. And so I had kind of an idea of how to speak when I was like on a stage or on camera or on the radio. And yeah, so I was up there and just answering questions, and my current boss, Kelsey Laverdier, saw me up there, and they knew they were looking for somebody that really wasn't going to be expected of a lot of hours or like a full-time position. And me being just out of college, I was kind of the perfect person for that, because it was just kind of a test run of, okay, maybe we could have this host position. Let's just see how it goes. And yeah, we just kind of started it from the ground up. She found me on Facebook, oddly enough, and reached out. I still remember exactly where I was when she called me, because I was just totally confused at the entire thing. Like, been a Hawkeye fan my entire life, and just kind of felt like everything led up to this point. But in the moment, I was like, what is this lady talking about? This job, and hopefully it'll turn into this, but it could be this, whatever. And I'm sitting in a parking lot just like, okay, yeah, I guess we could try it out. And it was just, like I said, totally brand new to everybody. So just starting it completely from the ground up and throwing little things in here and there. And yeah, just continued to get better as I had the job, but definitely started off a little bit fresh, little rocky. When I watch some of my old videos, I'm like, oof, that's tough. But yeah, I studied, just to go back to college, I studied journalism and mass communication, and definitely had like a heavy emphasis on doing real jobs, like real world jobs, going to get as many internships as I possibly could. And then I also did Daily Iowan TV, which is the like on-campus news organization. Can't say enough about the opportunities that they afford students there, by the way. It's basically like a real news organization that's completely led by students, and it's just the best experience that you can possibly get on campus. So huge shout out to Daily Iowan. If you're interested in doing anything on TV, I fully support getting involved in that while still in college. So that's kind of how everything came together.
Cool. All right. Next question is from Dublin Hawk, and they ask favorite breakfast on game day.
Oh gosh. Okay. This one's kind of funny. So in the beginning, I could not eat anything on game day because I would truly throw up at the thought of like going out in front of everybody. Was just so nervous that I could barely even choke down like water. It was awful. And so now that I've kind of gotten used to everything and not so nervous, now my go-to breakfast is like, let's see, I would say like a good egg sandwich, like English muffin, egg, some sort of like breakfast meat, sausage or bacon, either one, and cheese. And like that's pretty standard. Coffee always. And then I'll bring an energy drink with me as well. So that would be, yeah.
Cool. All right. Auburn asks, how early do you have to be there before kickoff?
So I get there about 2 hours before kickoff for sound check. And actually, I have to throw this in here too. I totally forgot to mention at the beginning. So John, one of our producers, came with me to, it was the Minnesota game this season, and just kind of got some like behind the scenes footage of what exactly game day looks like. So I'm pretty sure if you're watching right now, you can see like what sound check looks like and what it entails. So I get there about 2 hours ahead of time, a lot earlier than that to get parked and everything, of course, and get through all the crowds and everything. But get into the stadium 2 hours ahead and go through sound check. So we check like the inner ears. And those are like, so when you're down on the field, the way that the speaker system is set up, it's super echoey. Like I'm talking like a full second after you said something, you would hear yourself on the speaker. So when you don't have those in, it's horrible. Like it's just so hard to keep focus of what you're trying to say. So those inner ears help with that. So you can just hear yourself in the moment of what you're saying. And so we check those to make sure they're working. And then also kind of like go around the field to different spots that I know I'm going to be at for different hits, and just check to make sure that, the microphone is going to be working and all the speaker systems sound okay. So, and that in all of those different locations, it sounds good. So that's why I do that and get there kind of that 2 hour ahead of kickoff. So, yeah. All
right. Question from Nicole. What is your favorite part of game day?
Oh, man. Favorite part of game day? There's two. Every time that I walk into the stadium, there's obviously nobody out there except for maybe a couple of coaches, maybe a few special teams players that are out on the field. But I walk in on one of the end zones, like up from the concourse. And I have a video of every time I've done it. Maybe I can send it to the producers to throw in here. But every time I walk in, I take a video of like my feet, and then I kind of like pan the camera up to like look at the entire field from one of the end zones. And it's just one of those surreal moments where it kind of gets me grounded of, oh my gosh, how lucky am I and blessed am I to be able to do this again and walk into this amazing place, this amazing stadium that I have been so connected to my entire life, and be able to be on the field and be a part of game day. That's just so lucky. So that's probably one of my favorite parts, just personally, but also obviously the Swarm back in black. That entire pregame situation is just so magical, I think, for everybody, because the energy in the stadium is just unmatched, especially on a night game.
All right, we got a couple questions here from Auburn. First one for you. Do you ever get out on the field and regret an outfit choice?
Yes, literally almost every game. I have talked about this before on the podcast where I'm like, I don't know how to dress for the weather. I just, for whatever reason, cannot figure out what 40 degrees feels like in October. It's like, well, 40, but the sun's going to be out. That could be kind of nice. Sure, I'll wear a skirt. Terrible idea. Why would you do that? So yes, there are so many times. I remember specifically, this was the worst one. It was supposed to rain. And so I wore these like knee-high rain boots with, I think I had shorts on with it, and it didn't rain at all. And so I had these giant rain boots on, looked like a total dork. I wore a hat, like thinking it's going to downpour. And it was, not joking, like 100 degrees. It was so hot. And my legs were like dripping sweat in these stupid rubber rain boots. That was one of the worst ones, longest game of my life.
Oh, man. All right. Second question. Morning, afternoon, or night game preference?
Oh, my gosh. Well, there is some merit to all of it. So I would say morning games are nice just because you wake up, you go do the thing, and then after the game, you kind of get the rest of the day to like hang out, chill. Typically, you get like pretty decent weather because, you hit the like noon time. That's going to probably be your warmest time in the day, regardless of what time of year or, what the season is. But then the 2:30 games, those are also fun because then there's a ton of people out like tailgating and you get to have kind of that experience when you drive in, and it just gives people a longer amount of time to enjoy the day. And then it sometimes later in the season can turn into a night game. So that's fun too as you get into the game. But night games at Kinnick Stadium, everybody knows this, are just absolutely magical. When the lights come on at Kinnick, like, you know, it's going to be a good game. Everybody just has a different energy about them. Typically, we have a lot of like great games that happen at night, some upsets and things like that. So I don't know. There's just so many good things about every game time. So I'm going to say I don't really care. I think they're all great.
Bree asks, do you usually do your hair or get it done professionally? It's always on point. I'm jealous.
Oh, thanks, Bree. Well, so I get my hair done in terms of like color and my extensions by Revitalize You, which is in North Liberty. They're the best. Sarah and Abby, they're the ones that do all of that for me. So that's always done professionally. But my sister actually does my game day like braids and whatever else I'm doing. She actually helps me out, and she lives just about 5 minutes from me. So I can pop over there. She'll do it up for me really quick, and then I can be on my way. So professionally, not really. She's not a professional hairstylist. She's just annoyingly talented at a lot of different things and just is good at whatever she chooses to do. And so she does that for me. And then, I don't know if she asked about makeup, but I do my own makeup always too.
Last question is from Cody, and it says, favorite quick interview you've done during the commercial breaks? Who's jacked up the crowd the most?
Oh, man. Of course, it was fun having George Kittle back. Everybody lost their minds. That was a few years ago. So that was fun. I will say that interview, he did his big like, woo! And in the speakers, it was really loud. But in those inner ears that I was talking about, that was quite possibly the loudest noise I've ever heard in my ears in my life. It was pretty terrible. But that was a ton of fun. Man, we've had so many good people back. Like, of course, Dallas Clark is always great. Tim Dwight came back at one point. Robert Gallery was awesome. Ricky Stanzi was incredible. I have a very funny picture of that where Ricky Stanzi was like my guy when I was a kid and watching Hawkeye football. And so I have a very funny photo of like the way I'm looking at Ricky Stanzi while I'm interviewing him. So funny. I'm like, my eyes are lit up. Matt's like, chill. Okay. But he was great. One of the best ones always is Tom Brands and the wrestling team. They just have a way about them that gets people fired up. Obviously, they're a winning program, and so people love Hawkeye wrestling and the great tradition of it. But there was a time when Tom just took the mic from me and just went off on his own, which was like intense. And I just kind of stood there like, well, this is happening right now. But that one's always super fun. There's just so many great ones. Just this past season, I had Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. Amazing story. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie or read the book, but that was amazing. Trying to think. Gosh, there's just so many. We have so many good alumni that come back. Luca Garza was really cool. I could go on. The list goes on and on. Anytime Caitlin Clark or Spencer Lee steps on the field, people lose their mind. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so many good stories and so many amazing alumni that come back that I get the pleasure of meeting or meeting again, guys that maybe Matt played with, and they get to come back and do the interview. But there's just so many good ones. And even if they don't get the crowd like pumped up, I just think it is so cool that we get so many people that want to come back and come back to games that have graduated or been a part of any of the programs and just get to come back and be a part of game day. So yeah, I think probably one of my favorites is always going to be Tom Brands because you just never know what's going to happen. And that's the beauty of it. But there's a lot of good ones. Is that it, Matt?
Yeah.
Matthew? I keep calling you Matt because
no, it's all good.
You know. All right. Well, thank you guys. That was so much fun. And I think it was really cool that we were able to put that like game day stuff over it. So if you are, or the game day like footage. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, like apps, hop over to YouTube and check it out. Subscribe to the Taco-Bout network. And then you can watch, and it just adds a new little element, especially when Matt is explaining plays and such. It's a little bit easier to watch how his hands and his feet and all of the things move. So anyway, thank you guys for those questions. We are going to get into our preview of Rutgers. We will be right back.
This season, Marquee Pizzeria is teaming up with Nico Reganey to help the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. Together, they've created a new signature pizza, the Nico Parm. Sounds so good. $2 of every pizza will be donated to the Children's Hospital. Visit Marquee Pizzeria, located in the Coralville River Landing, this fall and help the kids by eating pizza.
You know, if you're not in the mood for pizza.
If you're not, I love Estella's because it is fresh. From the fresh grilled steak to the salsas to their fresh pressed tortillas.
I love Estella's because it's quick. You can get in and out. It doesn't feel like fast food. It feels like fresh food quick.
Yeah, we both love Estella's because it is made with love. They put a lot of pride in their food and customer service, and they are locally owned. Plus, it was my biggest pregnancy craving. I will say that too. That's Estella's Fresh Mex. Fresh food made quick with love.
Locally owned and operated, Performance is a full-service restoration company serving eastern Iowa. As an IICRC certified firm, their multi-licensed technicians have decades of experience in water, mold, and fire mitigation. Whether it's your home or business, this is the team you want in the time of need. Performance Restoration, 319-626-2292.
The Appliance Barn offers a wide range of high-quality appliances at unbeatable prices.
Whether you're in the market for a new refrigerator, dishwasher, or washing machine, they've got you covered.
They also have a delivery and setup department to ensure your appliances get delivered and installed quickly.
To find out more, visit appliancebarn.com.
Okay, so we are headed into a new week, taking on Rutgers out of the East. Took me a second to think about that.
Where's Rutgers located?
New Jersey.
Nice.
Do you think I'm dumb or what?
No, definitely not.
Okay, tell me about Rutgers. What have you seen from them?
Well, no.
What?
No, that's not how we do this.
Oh, because I'm supposed to go first. You're so right.
What do you think? Am I dumb? About time I got you back.
Okay. I'm going to keep going. All right.
Well, start going.
Matt, stop. Okay, Rutgers. They are the birthplace of college football. You know this, right?
I'm pretty sure they have it on that graphic, like when the Big Ten goes.
I was just about to reference that.
Oh,
What is that?
I see it all the time.
What's the song? I wanna touch the silver lining. Oh my! Everyone listening is like, yes, that freaking song. I can't tell what the words are. I want to live forever. I don't care. That's the only words that's in it. The rest of it is just mumbo jumbo. Okay, Rutgers, birthplace of college football. 1766, it was founded and it was known as Queens College. They were known as the Queensmen.
Queensman.
The Queensmen. I don't like the way you just said that. But 1825, they became Rutgers. They were named after Colonel Henry Rutgers, who was a Revolutionary War hero. Took a lot for me to get that out. I don't know why that was so hard to say. But the first college football game was played there. It was between Rutgers and Princeton in 1869. And then they decided, like, okay, how are we going to tell our players against Princeton? Like, we're going to have to come up with a color that we wear or something. So, like, let's do orange, because apparently orange has something to do with, like, their Dutch heritage.
Yeah, the Netherlands they wear orange, like in the FIFA World Cup and stuff like that.
Okay. So there you go. But then they were like, well, how about we try scarlet? Because apparently at the time, scarlet ribbon was a lot easier to come by than orange. And so for that first game, they wore scarlet colored turbans and handkerchiefs. I couldn't really find a photo of that. I was trying to picture it in a football game, and I'm picturing
like Fred from Scooby-Doo with an ascot that's scarlet.
It's a little ascot there. I don't know. It was a very fancy first football game. I don't know. This was 1869. You never know. But then in 1925, okay, the thing about being dumb, this is a dumb thing. I don't know how to say this. I think it's the Florida Gulf Coast. Do you know what their mascot is? It's like a chicken.
Florida Gulf Coast, the FGCU.
I just can't say the name.
The Chanticleers?
Is that how it is? The C is silent? It's like Chanticleers.
Oh, Chanticleers.
Chanticleers, that's how you say it?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so in 1925, they decided to become the Chanticleers. And this I got from Bucky's Fifth Quarter. It's just like a blog online. And this was the quote. It said, famously, a Chanticleer is a character from Geoffrey Chaucer's 14th century collection, The Canterbury Tales. The Chanticleer is a protagonist of the Nun's Priest Tale and is a cock of the walk, prized for his crowing abilities, who gets frisky with a hen before outsmarting a hungry fox. That was a direct quote. So that's how they came up with, we'll be the Chanticleers. Feels like
nothing like naming your university after. Keep going.
After some a chicken.
After
But then that's when they decided to change it because they're like, if you don't want to be a chicken, like, yeah, you're afraid, you're scared. So you have really got all the animal sounds today.
I've been working on with that.
I like it. And so in the 1950s, like, we need to put out a public vote, decide what we're going to be for good now, because we don't want to be the chickens anymore. So the Scarlet Knight won.
Out of, do you know what the other choices were?
Or
was it an open vote?
There was an open vote, but there was a whole list of like ones that came up. They just weren't all that interesting. So the Scarlet Knight was the winner, and their mascot is Sir Henry. It's actually a pretty decent looking mascot. Pretty good. I'd assume it was pretty expensive based on like what did I say? Michigan State was like $13,000 or something ridiculous like that.
But we also agreed
that it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Understood. But they have Sir Henry, who looks similar-ish to like the Michigan State kind of whatever, the guy. But then they also have the other guy, and I don't know if he has a name. I didn't really look at that part. But he's like a real person, whatever. The real person dressed in like a full knight's costume, and he rides on a horse. You've seen pictures of him.
I'm sure.
So those are the two that they've got going on. And that's Rutgers in a nutshell. The birthplace of college football. There you have it.
There you go.
All the way back to, what did I say? 1766. That's so long ago. You know what they should do? They should come up with alternate uniforms where they wear ascots.
Like as a part of the uni?
Handkerchiefs. Yeah.
Like where Oregon State said Beavs the last game, and then you just put like...
No, I have like such a bone to pick with that. Why?
We're not going to go any further.
I'm going to go there. Don't put Beavs on the front of it. Sorry. Just Beavers. Just put that in. You don't have to make it weird.
Maybe they were trying to match like the head profiles or something. I don't know.
Anyway. All right. Tell me about Rutgers, Matt. They played Ohio State and they played them pretty tough.
Yeah. So the final score 35-16, not indicative of how the game went.
So hold on a second. So you said that exact same thing when we were playing Iowa State. And you were like, well, it's not really indicative of how the game went because the score was like, and it was like this ridiculous score again, whatever.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, they won, like the score is the score kind of thing. And they were kind of mad about you saying that. So please explain a little bit more about what you mean when you say it wasn't indicative of how the game went, regardless of the score.
Thanks.
You're so
So
welcome.
when I mean it's not indicative of the score is 35-16, winning by 19 points. You're like, wow, they really had their way with them. And they really didn't until the fourth quarter. And what actually happened in the third quarter is that Rutgers threw a 93-yard pick six when they were going to go up 16-7. Like that's a very big difference in what would have happened in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Ohio State won by 19 points. Like you can't take that away, and I'm not taking it away. But the fact of the matter is, like that game could have gone very differently without the 93-yard pick six that changed it. But it happened. But it would have changed the game had that not happened. So it's like, it's just closer than what that was. And it's 21-16 in the fourth. I mean, it was still a close game before Ohio State kind of basically outlasted Rutgers in the fourth quarter. But that was a very close football game. Rutgers was goal to go 3 times in the second quarter. Do you know what I mean when I say goal to go?
No.
So, it's 1st and 10. They have 10 yards to go.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say goal to go, it's like 1st and goal.
Got it.
So they did that 3 times in the second quarter. All 3 times they had to settle for field goals. Could have been 21-7 going into half, Rutgers. Instead, 9-7.
Okay.
Still took the lead, but it's just like they just couldn't quite punch it in. They're kind of an interesting thing offensively. So I mentioned that 93-yard pick six. So it was 9-7. First drive, they were going all the way down the field against Ohio State, do a little pop pass, do a little play action thing, and then he's trying to hit the running back, just floats it up a little bit, ball gets tipped up into the air, another guy picks it off at the 7 and then runs it all the way back. But that would have been an opportunity. Maybe Rutgers doesn't score a touchdown because they really didn't click to that much. So let's say they go down and kick another field goal. 12-7 is still better than 9-14. And they played Wisconsin really tough. They threw a 99-yard pick six at the end of the half against Wisconsin. So, like,
What?
yeah. So twice they've had that. So I'm saying our defense can be opportunistic.
Coop.
But they pose a little bit of a different threat because their quarterback runs the ball so well. So you almost have to account for them, whereas you wouldn't normally in terms of like, okay, well, let's say they're in 11 personnel. They have 1 running back, 1 tight end, and then 3 receivers. So you're going to go play with the 3 receivers and you're going to treat it like there's 2 eligible. in the attached formation, meaning the tight end and the running back. But now you have to think tight end, running back, and quarterback. And the reason that it's important is because they'll do a play action with the running back, and then the running back turns into a lead blocker for the quarterback. So normally if you think like, okay, we've got 5 in the box, or let's say we've got 6 in the box, we're running a 4-2 because we got the cash. Sebastian Castro's up on the, maybe he's on the slot receiver or something. Well, we like 6 in the box versus 6, the 5 down linemen, 5 offensive linemen, and the running back. And then we just don't leave the quarterback. Or you leave the quarterback not worrying about it. You got 6 on 6. We know they have one more than us, but it's the QB. But now if you go 6 on 6, the quarterback counts as a runner, so they actually have more people than we do. So it might be a little different in terms of like Kyler Fisher might get a little more playing time in order to keep him in the box because we know that he can run. And they were gouging Ohio State on the inside zone. Inside, like really in between the tackles is where they were gashing Ohio State, like 15 yards, 12 yards, 9 yards. And they did a couple of things, what we call a nub set. Do you have any idea what that can mean?
No, but we used to call Teddy's tail a nub because it was just short.
Because it wasn't all the way.
Yeah.
So it's just a little nub.
Oh, miss her little nub.
Yeah. Anyway, so a nub set would be if they've got, basically if they don't have anybody out wide, if they don't have a wide receiver and they come in to be an extension of the line, that's considered a nub.
Okay.
And so they did it a few times against Ohio State. And what they want to do is like if Ohio State goes man to man, what they do is they go corners over, which means that normally you have a corner on each side that covers the wide receiver, right? Well, if you're in zone, that corner stays over here because he's still got his zone. Even if they bring the receiver over, he just gets a little closer to the line. His job is to contain. Well, what happened, and what I mean by contain is that if there's an outside run to him, he forces it back to all his buddies in the middle so that way they make the tackle. Okay. Well, if you go corners over and then go man to man and then he comes over here, well, now you lose your contained player. But you're also like, well, they don't have anybody out here that's really going to threaten anything. You still have your safety and your outside backer. Well, they did a play action with the running back who then countered. So he started off to his right, play action, so they didn't hand it to him. And then he went back to the left and sealed the linebacker in. So there's nobody out here. And now the quarterback free runs, and I think it was like a 15-yard gain or something like that. So like they do some cool things with their quarterback. So we just have to be aware that might change kind of how we play the box because we have to account for him in the run game.
Interesting. So this could be another really big game for Jay Higgins.
I expect every game Jay Higgins to have like 90 tackles. It's unbelievable. But yeah,
Very
something
good.
similar.
Okay. Anything else about their offense that is of note?
They like to attack the middle of the field. That's what we saw a lot of against Ohio State in breaking routes, little curl routes that are right there. And what I mean by that is like running 10 yards, turning around, and then catching the ball. Mm-hmm. They did do that a couple times, so we're just gonna have to kind of wait and see how if they try to attack us like that. But I'm more worried about the quarterback being able to run and just changing kind of how we configure the box.
Okay. Let's talk about what's next.
Their defense.
Their defense? Is that what you're going to talk about next, Matt?
Yeah, so their defense, they played, so Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Okay.
like top receiver in the league in all of college football. He's just really good. They pressed him a lot. Now, they play kind of like a cover 2 look. They did go press man on a couple different scenarios, and Marvin Harrison mossed him. He had a touchdown, goal line fade. But they pressed him a lot and really wanted to challenge him. And what cover 2 is essentially the corners. Like, I'm going to think about it like a box, okay? Think of like a square. And if the ball is on the left side, just outside the square, on the left side of the thing, that box is what the corner and the safety are going to cover. The bottom right corner of the square, that's the corner's job. So he's just covering what we call the flats, which is near the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
The deep half, so you've got the four sections of a square, let's say. The bottom right square is the corners. The back 2 sections of that square, that's the safety's job. But they have to start from the inside top left corner, and they have to guard everything over to the right side. So a lot of times corner routes are things that attack that zone that's far away from the safety, but beyond the corner is where they try to hit. And Ohio State tried to throw like 5 or 6 times. They did throw an interception because the quarterback didn't put enough height on the ball, but they're trying to attack that zone So I wouldn't be surprised if we try to attack that with some corners and stuff like that. But they did play a lot of press, a lot. So we're going to have to do the pin rip and the arm overs, the pop, things like that. And I think we got to incorporate some foot fire. That was something that like BK, who was my old position coach, Bobby Kennedy, he was my position coach for 4 out of my 5 years at Iowa. That was something that he talked about a lot, which it doesn't look cool. Like it looks like you're just running in place. But oftentimes you'll get in the DB's head of like, he's got a timer too of like, okay, when is he going to go? I got to be ready for when he tries to fire off. So if I'm just sitting there buzzing my feet and then all of a sudden I give a 1-2 one way and then come back the other way.
See, this is when I want you to stand up.
Anyway, if I give like a head fake, it's kind of like a crossover in basketball. If I'm going to start going to my right and cross over back to the left, that's the point. If you can get them going the one way.
Matt's the king of head fakes. I'm just saying it. I mean, I'm very biased, but I'm just saying it. The way your head moves it's not natural.
So like if you can do something like that to get them off their spot and then come back, I think that would help our timing. They were trying to be physical with Marvin Harrison. They were like, you're the number one guy. Prove to us you're the number one guy. And then he went over and mossed them. But like, I think that they're going to be physical against us. I would, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm putting everybody in the box and then press man on the outside and just make them win on the outside.
Okay.
And so I'm waiting for some foot fire and some pop. And I really want to see us extend the ball downfield. I think that's something that our offense has been missing for a little bit. Against press coverage, if you get Seth Anderson and they whiff, just let them go run underneath it. I think there's opportunity there.
All right. That would be fun. I'd like to see that. Anything else you want to mention about Rutgers?
They're a good football team. They're sitting at 6-3. I know we're sitting at 7-2. We already talked about kind of the landscape of the Big Ten. So it kind of runs through Iowa City now. We pretty much hold our own destiny. So we got to go out and take care of business against good Greg Schiano coached Rutgers team on Saturday.
Very good. It's supposed to be 43 degrees.
Not too bad.
Feels like a coat. Should wear a coat. I'm asking. I don't know how to dress myself.
Yeah, we know.
In the elements.
Yeah. I would say bring more than what you need. Duh.
Always a very good point. Very good, Matt. 43, partly cloudy, 2:30 kickoff. It'll be a little dark by the time the game's over.
It's going to be a little tough too.
Why?
Because Solon.
Yes. We have a little bit of a scheduling conflict. We have to give a shout out to Solon High School where Matt coaches.
Ayo.
The receivers who had a really good game, by the way.
Really good game.
Last Friday. The receivers specifically and the quarterback, Tybell. So great.
Yeah, they're balling.
If we've got some scouts listening, go check them out. No, the whole team did great. It's a great team win.
36-35, hard nose, came down to the end.
With how good you guys are, we've seen a lot of blowouts. And so it was really nice to see, like as much as it's very stressful to watch those games that are back and forth like that, but it is like, oh, this is the sport. This is what's fun about it, right?
This is when you want to go compete.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. So you guys are headed to the Dome on Saturday and the game is at 7, about an hour and a half away from Solon. And so we're going to have a little like 2-hour part where I'm at the Iowa game and Matt is in UNI or at UNI at the Dome. So we're going to have to fill some time in there with the kids.
So I'll probably just have it up on Hulu. I definitely won't be watching while I'm driving.
No, don't ever do that. Listen to it.
I won't be.
Listen to Gary Dolphin, the voice of the Hawkeyes.
Listen to Dolphin Eddie. Don't need to see it.
You don't need to see it. It's on Big Ten Network. So fear not.
Yeah, Peacock was fine.
That's good.
For some of the game.
Oh.
I still had a few rough things, but for the most part, it was good. I had people texting me, hey, Peacock's fine on my TV. I'm like, good for you.
Oh, such a trouble with Peacock. But okay, it's going to be a good game. I'm excited to be back in Kinnick. Had a couple weeks off and yeah, let's get after it.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.